Professional mountain biker Adam Craig says it's one of the top 3 places in the universe he's ridden. Where is this magical mountain biking nirvana? It's none other than Brevard, North Carolina, home to Pisgah National Forest and DuPont Recreational Forest. The area boasts over 300 miles of peerless single track, not to mention hundreds of miles of gravel roads, creating a near endless array of routes, terrains, and challenges to explore. 4 vibrant bike shops will get you sorted, whether you need gear, service, or a top-notch rental. Top it off with an array of craft breweries, cafes, and gathering spots that have earned Brevard the title as one of the best small towns in America in 2021. It all adds up to a premier mountain biking destination you'll want to experience for yourself. Find out more at explorebrevard.com. Hey everybody, welcome to the Single Tracks Podcast. My name is Jeff, and today my guest is Terry Palmeri. Terry is the executive director of SORBA, which is the Southern Off-Road Bicycle Association, and the group has been around since 1989. Today, the group is made up of 48 chapters spread across 7 different states. Thanks for joining me, Terry.
Well, thank you, Jeff. It's a pleasure to be here.
So take me back to the beginning. How and why did SORBA get its start? What kind of issues or things were going on in mountain biking in the South back in like the late 80s?
Yes. Well, that's when SORBA started in 1989. It was because of access. And it started in the Atlanta area, North Georgia. Mm-hmm. And there's just a few trails to ride at the time. There was the Palisades Trail that was along the Chattahoochee River. It's now Soap Creek. Mm-hmm. There's a river loop in LJ, Georgia, about 90 miles north of Atlanta. And then there were the trails at Kennesaw Mountain National Battlefield Park. Mm-hmm. And the mountain bikers lost access to that trail due to user conflict and riding off trail. So a group of 13 concerned mountain bikers met at Vinings, Schwinn Bicycle Shop, now Atlanta Cycling Vinings. Mm-hmm. And I just found out my husband, Mike Palmeri, was a part of that original 13.
Wow.
He was a bike mechanic I know, he goes way back. Wow. He was a mechanic at the time at the bicycle shop. So that's how it got started. Now, we never did get access back to the national park.
Right.
But we now have quite a few trails all over the Southeast and lots of trail opportunities now.
Yeah. And the group has obviously expanded a ton, like I said in the beginning, across 7 different states now. How is SORBA organized? How do you how do all those different chapters work together?
Well, I'll talk in IRS nonprofit speak first. So SORBA is the parent organization over 48 subordinate chapters. Okay. SORBA Main, as we call it, takes care of administrative details and costs that support our chapters. We provide services to make it easier for our chapters to focus on their mission and goals. And I'll give you an example. So our chapters need to have a liability insurance that covers their activities, trail building, organized rides, those sort of things. So the insurance skyrocketed about 3 years ago. But we were able to keep the cost down because we're organized as a big group and have the ability to reduce the costs and the risks.
Okay.
But kind of what we're doing in the background to take care of this issue for the long term, because we don't know what our insurance costs are going to be next year. They could triple again next year. Mm-hmm. So we are working with the Unified Law Commission. This is a commission that looks at state law and helps update it. And we would like to update the recreational use statutes that each state has that protects the landowner from any problems that might arise by opening up their land to recreational activities.
Okay.
So we're going to be talking with the Uniform Law Commission next month, and hopefully they'll take this up. We have a lot of support for it, a lot of support letters, and it might take a few years, but this is one way that we can help our chapters make it easier for them to do what they do.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Well, so, I mean, 7 different states, it sounds like they all have different recreation laws. So is the goal to get like a federal law that kind of standardizes that, or are you going to have to go state by state?
State by state. And the beauty of working with the Uniform Law Commission is that once they look into it, change up the law, most states will adopt it right away.
Okay. Interesting. Yeah. Yeah. I can imagine there are a lot of different interpretations of that, and maybe it's easier to build trails some places than others. How many miles of single track trails does SORBA or SORBA chapters currently support? Do you have any idea on that?
Yeah, about 3,000 miles.
Wow.
And it takes about 50,000 volunteer hours to maintain. But that's just part of the story.
Mm-hmm.
We have about 1,000 miles in the negotiation stage. So that means that, hey, the chapter's identified an area where they think they can build trails, and they're talking with the land manager, land agency, to see if it's possible. So once they get past that stage, get the okay, we do have about 500 miles of trail that are in the planning and design stage. So once you get the land manager approval and community support, it's time to make a plan of how many miles of trails, what kind of trails, that sort of thing. Now, let's say they get that all done. They get this planning and design part of it done. There's community support. They have all the environmental surveys done. Mm-hmm. We currently have 200 miles of trails and 10 bike park projects.
Wow.
At the shovel-ready stage.
Wow.
All we need is funding. So that's how busy our chapters are.
Yeah. Well, as like the SORBA, the main SORBA, what do you call it? Like the group that you are the executive director of? It's just SORBA, or is it like headquarters? Just call it SORBA.
We call it SORBA Maine.
Okay. So at SORBA Maine, how much of your time or, efforts go toward things that you mentioned, like insurance and things like administrative stuff for the clubs versus, actually advising them on like how to get approvals and funding and that sort of thing?
I would say administrative tasks probably take up about 30% of my time and Philip Darden's time. Philip Darden is our associate director. We are full-time staff for SORBA. Mm-hmm. And I would say the rest is direct support to our chapters. Just to give you an example, I'll be traveling down to Brunswick, Georgia, which is below Savannah, to talk to them about a mountain bike trail that they have there that needs some improvement in getting the county on board and what are the next steps.
Cool. Yeah, I rode a trail down there in Brunswick, maybe the same one you're talking about, and it had the worst spider webs of anywhere I've ever been in my life. So hopefully that's part of the project, is like getting rid of the spiders.
No, that's that first person that's going to be breaking the, riding first. Mm-hmm. you always try to get that one, because they don't know what they're getting into.
Right. Yeah. I was by myself and I was like picking up sticks and trying to knock them out of the way. But I finally literally gave up on that ride because the spiders were so bad. Oh,
I know. Yeah. And then they're just, you can knock them all out of the way and they're just as bad the next day.
Right. Right. They don't pay attention to our wishes. Well, so how many individuals belong to a SORBA club among all your affiliates and chapters?
Well, we have over 9,000 members. And to give you an example, we have chapters in areas where there's not a big population, a small town that may be taking care of a lot of trails. And they may have around 60 to 70 members. Mm-hmm. Whereas our bigger chapters in bigger metropolitan areas like Raleigh-Durham, they have over 800 members.
Oh, wow.
Yeah.
Wow. That's great. Well, how do you think that number compares to like how many active mountain bikers there are living in those states?
I think we're just getting a small fraction.
Yeah.
And it's a good thing and a bad thing. There's so many new folks coming into the scene, mountain biking, especially coming out of the like, for instance, the Georgia Cycling Association and the National Interscholastic Cycling Associations in our other states. there's a ton of kids coming through and are avid mountain bikers. So it's an educational problem for us.
Yeah.
To make sure that they understand that no, these trails didn't just appear.
Right. Right.
So there was a volunteer group behind it that got it built or built it themselves and are maintaining it.
Right. Yeah. And with the pandemic, did you see like an increase in, I mean, we certainly saw it in mountain biking, a lot more people on the trails. Has that affected membership at all as far as you can tell?
You know, it didn't, because we keep a close eye on our statistics. And last year, our membership flattened out. We did make great gains, like from 2018 to 2020, and then it kind of flattened out. But it's just another challenge that we need to try and work through.
Yeah. Yeah. I imagine, I mean, it, like you said, it's a good thing and a bad thing. And I imagine it can be frustrating when you're trying to represent a number of mountain bikers, but they aren't necessarily part of your group. And so you can't even communicate with all of them and that sort of thing. So it seems like a challenge.
Well, we try. Yeah. We try. We've been very active on our Facebook and in other social media and posting information on our website. Just like you guys do. You do an awesome job of getting information out to the mountain biking public. But, another big problem that we have is etiquette on the trails, how to be a responsible trail user. All those things, we need to really step it up with education.
So tell us, what were you doing before joining the SORBA staff?
Well, I was helping to manage a bicycle shop, and I was the president of the North Georgia Mountain Bike Association.
Yeah, so you've definitely had a lot, and that was, for those who don't know, Cartiquet Bikes in Ellijay.
Correct, yeah.
Which is home to a lot of the best mountain biking in Georgia, a lot of trails on national forest land, and so I imagine you're very familiar with working with the Forest Service and those sorts of things.
Yeah, thank you for saying that. Yeah, like I said, that's an example of a small chapter that really takes care of a lot of trails up here that are, very popular with folks in Georgia.
Yeah. Yeah. I always imagine again that's a frustrating thing. It would be for me anyway, to have like a small club in a small town that has to maintain trails that are like wildly popular. Like everybody from Atlanta drives up there to ride, just for the day or the weekend, and rarely pitches in to help out with that. Yeah, for me, that would be frustrating. But yeah, they do such a great job, and really, even though it's a thankless one sometimes.
Sometimes, but they have some really great projects in the pipeline that hopefully will be coming to fruition soon. That's part of that 500 miles of trail, 200 miles of trail that are shovel ready.
Wow. Yeah, that's awesome.
Yeah.
Well, tell us, how is SORBA funded? I imagine there are a number of different sources, but what are sort of the main ones?
Well, I'll tell you, the main source is our membership dollars. So we are very careful with our budget, and we plan very carefully throughout the year. And that's all public. We present a budget to our board of directors, which our board of directors is represented by a chapter leader from each chapter.
Okay.
And then I give them a financial statement in our spring meeting. But we've managed that way for many years. We do a 40-40-20 split. So the chapters get back 40% of their membership dollars. SORBA Maine gets 40% to do all the administrative tasks and pay salaries and insurance, those sort of things. And then 20% goes to IMBA, who runs our membership management and also our HR and many other things that they put together that really support our chapters.
Okay. Yeah. Yeah. And so I was going to ask, what is the relationship between SORBA and IMBA? It seems like it's a very close one, and over the years it's kind of changed and things. So what is it like right now?
Well, I'm still the IMBA representative for the Southeast. So, for instance, when we're working with forest planning, like with the Nantahala-Pisgah National Forest, I represent IMBA and SORBA.
Oh, okay.
But we participate in the IMBA local program, which this is a new program that they put together, I believe in 2018.
Mm-hmm.
And it's probably the most comprehensive program that really supports our chapters. But there are also many other mountain bike organizations around the country that participate in the IMBA local program.
I'm going to be talking to Anthony Duncan, who runs the IMBA local program, on an upcoming podcast. So yeah, we've been hearing a lot of great things about that program and how it's working out so far for a lot of chapters all over the country.
Well, good. He's the man. Yeah, he actually came up through SORBA.
Right. He's based in the Southeast, right?
Correct. So he used to be I believe the president for Tri-Cities up in Johnson, Tennessee.
Right. Yeah. Really looking forward to talking to him and finding out more about that program. So you mentioned that there are a number of projects at various stages in the works. And to me, we cover mountain biking all over the U.S., all over the world. And it seems like there's always new trails being built here in the Southeast, more than other regions of the country and certainly the world. So tell us about some of the bigger projects that are currently in the works here.
Well, great. Yeah, I'd love to talk about them. And thank you for saying that. I didn't even realize that we have more trail development going on in the Southeast. But keep in mind that both Philip and we're not directly responsible for any one project.
Mm-hmm.
We know it takes many folks, chapter leaders, land managers, and the community to get a project. We just help facilitate that.
Mm-hmm.
And there are so many that I'd get in trouble if I leave a trail project out. But just to name a few.
We could order them by like mileage or something. I don't know. That gets me excited. Maybe not other people, but when I'm like, wow, they're building 10 miles or 15 miles. That's great.
Well, sometimes that 3-mile trail that's in a underserved community in a large urban area is so important.
Right.
But I'll give you a few. So there's Standing Boy, which is in Columbus, Georgia. That's got 20 miles built already. It's going to have 30. And these were built by IMBA Trail Solutions.
Mm-hmm.
So this is a really great project that we're looking forward to see it be finished.
Is that one that the 20 miles is complete? Is that open for riding?
Sure is. Yeah, sure is. I'm very proud of Old Fort. There wasn't a chapter that actually got this ball rolling. It was a whole community. This is just outside Asheville,
right.
North Carolina. 2 of our chapters did participate in consulting in giving them, telling them how to go about things. But that is a 40 mile trail system on the Nantahala-Pisgah National Forest that Forest Service is really supporting in the local community.
Mm-hmm.
I went to the groundbreaking here just recently, and
oh, cool.
Yeah, there was over 200 people there.
Wow.
So I've never seen that. So I'm really, this is one where the whole community was involved with this and they got it rolling. So the G5 Trail Collective was extremely important in this. IMBA Trail Solutions, again, came in with a Trail Accelerator grant. This is a grant that you can apply for that pays for planning and design, the most important part of a trail development.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
And the only grant out there that covers that sort of thing. So I'm really looking forward to that one opening up. And of course, we have some of the older ones, Coldwater Mountain in Anniston, Alabama.
They're still building at Coldwater. That's amazing.
Yeah, there's still more going on there. They also are building a big trail complex in the old Army base, Fort McClellan.
Right. Yes, I've ridden some of those. Yeah.
Okay. Yeah, I haven't gotten there yet. Walden's Ridge in Chattanooga, Tennessee. This is going to be very much flow trail. It also gives access for climbers to climb the ridge right behind it. That should be open soon. You have the Urban Wilderness in Knoxville, Tennessee.
Mm-hmm.
It's been around for a while, but I think they're adding some new trail to that. But Right now, the one I'm really, really excited about is the Hall's Top project, which is in Cocke County, Tennessee. That's the far eastern part of Tennessee. It's been a huge grant that went to this county to build about 80 miles of trail in the national forest.
Whoa.
And yeah, it's pretty cool. But what happened is the county, not really knowing how to work with Forest Service, and didn't choose the right trail builder to do the conceptual planning and design.
Mm-hmm.
They were suggesting things in the forest that would never fly. So the forest has certain management areas that dictate what can happen on that particular part of land.
Mm-hmm.
And this is something that, of course, us as SORBA know quite a bit about. We know how to work with Forest Service. We've had an MOU with them for 8 years now. I think we're the only group that has a mountain bike specific MOU.
Oh, wow.
I think IMBA's working on some for other regions. And it's a good working relationship. We work all the time with Region 8 dealing with mountain biking and recreation. And so we had to advise the county manager that, hey, this is not going to work. You're going to be wasting your money here. And it's taxpayer money. And so we're concerned. We want the project to be successful. We want them to be successful.
Mm-hmm.
So it was a few key volunteers that and me and Philip Darden that really, said, hey, you've got to change your trail builder. It's not going to work with this particular one. And they did. So they went to a trail builder that is going to do an excellent, excellent job. So I'm very excited about it now.
I mean, that's not the first time we've heard that happening where you have a contractor come in. A lot of these things, I guess, are bid out. I don't know the particulars of that situation, but you get someone who's not experienced and, they've done landscaping or things like that and don't realize what's involved in trails. So that's great that SORBA is able to be sort of an advisor, a trusted advisor to these land managers, so that they can say, hey, like this is not going to work out the way that you probably want it to. And so, yeah, that's a great role.
Yeah, I'm really looking forward to what they're going to come up with, because there's so many elements that need to be considered to have a successful trail system, because being that this is going to be somewhere around 80 miles, we've got to think about what do the hikers want? What do the equestrians want? What do the mountain bikers want? What are the management prescriptions for each piece of parcel of land that these trails will be going through? How does it connect to the city? How do we take into consideration all the different soil types, ecosystems that these trails will go through? Because it does go through some real stringent environmental surveys, what we call NEPA. Mm-hmm. And building the community behind it, because the public has input on whatever Forest Service does.
So another question I wanted to ask you about trails and some of the trails that SORBA chapters support is like, where are some of the busiest or most popular trails located? Are they generally like in metro areas, or are some of the forest trails seeing a lot of use as well?
Yeah, that's a good question. That's probably a good idea for a survey for us to put out. But I would say that any well-built trail system that is close to a major metropolitan area is going to be very popular, as is a destination quality trail too. So when we did do a survey, probably 5 to 7 years ago, it ended up being the Pisgah National Forest, Asheville, Tennessee area. Asheville, North Carolina area.
Interesting. Yeah. And I know though a lot of trails like here in Atlanta, like the Blankets Creek Trail is gotta be the most popular one. And, it seems like it would be real easy for a trail system like that to just be loved to death, where, it's just constantly in need of maintenance. And so I guess just every chapter has kind of different needs and different challenges that they need to handle. And so it's quite a diverse group of chapters.
Yeah, you are correct. Blankets Creek that Woodstock SORBA manages is an extremely popular trail system, and they manage it very well. They will hire a professional trail builder to come in and do the heavy maintenance on it because, it can get loved to death.
Well, are there any unique challenges to trail building in the Southeast? Again, because SORBA covers such a wide area, it seems like there's some really diverse terrain where trail builders are going to be working. You've got sand in Florida, and then, like you mentioned, Pisgah, North Carolina. It's lots of rocks and steep slopes. So how do you deal with that? Do you have like certain trail builders that you tend to work with, or like is there an advisement role as well that SORBA takes on in helping trail builders in these places?
I always advise either land managers or our chapters to try and bring in a professional trail builders. And there's many of them out there that do an excellent job. And they will know how to build a trail on sandy soil or in the mountainous area, the Piedmont area. Actually, it's easier to build a trail probably in the mountains than it is on flat, sandy soils.
Really?
But there are techniques that can be used to mitigate that but still make the trail fun for the mountain bikers.
Yeah, it seems like the other thing that we have in the Southeast is erosion is like a bigger problem, certainly than like out west and places like that. It seems like water management is just a huge part of any trail building project in the Southeast.
Yes, building a sustainable trail is the number one priority. We have seen a lot more rain in the Southeast than we have in the past. We're just about a rainforest now. So it does make a difference. So that's one of those pieces of one of those issues that professional trail builders think about when they're designing a trail.
Well, you mentioned sort of the impetus behind SORBA getting started back in '89 was some user conflicts at some trails in the Atlanta area. What is the sort of relationship with mountain bikers and other trail users look like today? Are you finding much opposition to mountain bike trail access in the Southeast, or are there pockets where it's better or worse?
It's much better now than it was 35, 40 years ago. We're no longer the redheaded stepchild. So that's part of building the community behind a trail development. You've got to reach out to the hikers and the equestrians if they're going to be using these trails. And you got to get their buy-in and work with them. And, because, we're all responsible for our public land. And the more people that can work together to protect our public lands, the better off we are. But I would say that our relationship is good. We listen to one another. So, you still get occasionally someone will say, well, bikes shouldn't be allowed in the woods. But that's very rare now.
It is surprising that there is so little opposition. I mean, even in the cities, here in Atlanta, you don't hear that a whole lot like you do maybe out west with certain trail areas. So speaking about other user groups, what does the current discussion around e-bike trail access look like for SORBA?
Well, our policy is the same as IMBA's. It's, we support the class 1, so long as there's an agreement between the local mountain bikers and the land manager, if they'll allow that class 1. But we don't want it to take access away from traditional mountain bikes. Yeah.
Is there a risk of that? I mean, have you heard from any groups that say?
Oh, I hope not. That's where we have to, fight for that. My concern is, so these e-bikes, they're not going away. I have seen more people benefit from it. Folks that have, some physical disability, are able to ride again, are able to ride with the group that they like to ride with. So I see more benefit than I see problems with it. But like with any new bike or even mountain bikers, there's going to be a few that are inconsiderate and maybe ride too fast and blow people off the trails. But I hear more good coming out of it than bad.
Yeah. Yeah. Are you hearing anything from the Forest Service in the area? My understanding is they can make that decision kind of case by case about whether they want to treat e-bikes like bikes or if they want to categorize them as motorized.
Well, they are going to come out with a policy for e-bikes here probably in the next couple months. I'm not, privy to what that policy is going to be. But it will end up being where it's the local district ranger that makes the decision whether to allow them or not once the policy comes out.
Right. And is e-bike access part of the conversation now with new trail builds? It seems like maybe that's an opportunity to say, we've got a clean slate here. This is a brand new trail. And we're going to, from the beginning, allow e-bikes or maybe not allow them. Is that part of the new trail conversation?
Oh, yeah. Yeah.
Yeah. Interesting. So you kind of touched on this earlier, but I'm curious to know what the biggest constraint SORBA faces in carrying out and growing the mission. Is it funding, volunteers? Is it something else?
It's funding. And we're starting to make the ask to ask foundations to write grants to find donations, other donations, other revenue streams, because man, I would love to be able to say, hey, we've got these trails, they're shovel ready. Let's get some money pumped into them. Help these chapters write a grant. Use some of our money to leverage those grants and get trails built faster. Sometimes we have trail systems that are shovel ready and sitting on the shelf for 5, 6, 7 years until we start getting some funding coming in. That's the biggest thing. It's the funding.
Yeah. Well, you mentioned 1,000 miles potentially of trails that are in the works or at some stage, and that's got to cost a lot of money. We're talking tens of millions of dollars, right?
We are, but when you look at it compared to other recreational facilities, if you talk about a mile of paved trail, that's $1 million.
Oh, wow.
When you look at if you look at a golf course, it's $1 million per hole.
Whoa.
So we really come in cheaper than a lot of all other recreational facilities. And trails allow access for the biggest majority of your population. Everybody can get out and walk on a trail just about.
Right.
So that's the way we need to think of the trails, as a facility that has value, just as a golf course, a public swimming pool, tennis courts, soccer fields. It's a facility that serves the public, and it needs to be treated that way.
Yeah, definitely. That's incredible, because I don't know, a mile of single track costs what, $25,000 and up?
That's on, and up, and that's on the low side. It just depends. If it's going to be flow trail with technical trail features, it goes up from there. Yeah.
Yeah. And so what are the kind of major sources for building trails? Is it typically grants, or is it fundraisers, or if you need to raise $1 million for a big trail system, I feel like you're not going to be just getting that from membership dues, right?
No, no, it'll be a grant. More than likely a grant. Yes.
From private organizations or nonprofits, or who writes these grants other than the Waltons?
Usually it's a recreational trails program. This is a federal grant through the highway bill. So there's money skimmed off of off-road vehicle gas tax that gets appropriated a certain amount to each state, and the state runs that grant. So what we call RTP. Coldwater Mountain was built with the RTP grants. So, but those are an 80-20 grant. So the grant pays for 80% of the cost, and 20% is raised by the local community.
Wow.
So donations from members, money put in the pot from the county or the city or the Visitors Bureau, from foundations can be part of that 20%. And that's what you really want, because these grants give you a lot of points if you've got a whole community that's willing to put skin in the game to get this trail built.
Yeah. Well, yeah. Are you seeing more cities and counties pitching in funding? It sounds like from the folks I've talked to here in Atlanta, sort of in the metro area, that there are counties and cities that are saying, we want trails, like come in, we'll even help fund them. Is that happening elsewhere?
Oh yeah. And it's the counties and cities that are reaching out to me that don't even have a chapter in their area. So that's pretty cool.
Yeah.
And then I can tell them the process that they need to go through in order to get a high quality trail system.
Yeah. Yeah. What a difference compared to like the 90s when this was all getting started, when it was like we had to beg and plead our case. And now mountain biking, I guess, is, would you say it's more mainstream? Is it more acceptable today?
Oh, yes, absolutely. And gaining popularity. But those were the hurdles we had to get through at the beginning. This is why International Mountain Bike Association put together all this knowledge of building sustainable trail that's ongoing, and producing those 4 books that really help with trail building. So we literally became the experts in the field that land managers and land agencies around the world respect. Right. It gets written into our MOUs, our agreements with land managers.
Yeah, I mean, it really legitimizes mountain biking and what we're doing, and that, yeah, we're doing it thoughtfully and sustainably, and yeah, it's clearly paying off.
Well, keep in mind that there's very few trails out there that are bike only. Most of them are multi-use.
Right.
So not only did we have to learn how to design for mountain bikes, we had to learn how to design for equestrians and for hikers.
Yeah, I mean, it seems like here, the trail work days that I go out to, it's mostly mountain bikers. I mean, is that the case kind of across the board, or is that unusual?
No, it is mostly mountain bikers. You know, hikers have a tendency to be able to step over things on a trail, but mountain bikers can't. So, you know, if trees fall down over the trail, we're out there cutting them off. But it's not to say that hikers don't participate. I think our chapter down in Augusta, Georgia, CSRA, has really brought in the hiking and trail running community, where they're members of their board and they're out there helping with trail maintenance.
Wow. That's awesome. Well, Terry, tell me, what's next for SORBA this year and looking beyond for the next few years?
Well, again, since we know that funding is something that we really want to go after, we're going to be making the ask this year. Last year, we really stepped up our game in telling our story, sending out newsletters, updating our website, being active with our Facebook and other social media platforms. And we did a really wonderful annual report beginning of the year for 2021. So, you know, we're telling our story much more effectively, whereas before, you know, folks just didn't know what we did. So we have that in place now, and Philip Darden does a wonderful job with that. But this year it's going to be making the ask.
Yeah. So what does that look like? Is it specific fundraisers? Is it, you know, online donations? Like how can people contribute and start supporting the mission more?
Well, of course, they can go to our website and donate online. We have that option with all our new newsletters that we put out there. But mainly I think it's writing grants to foundations. It's tough to get money for administrative purposes.
Right.
You know, everybody wants to give money to that sexy trail build.
Right. Everybody wants their name on the brand new trail.
Exactly. But, you know, that takes a lot of work behind the scenes to get this done. So we like to build capacity in order to help our chapters and be able to give them some funding in order to get their trail builds done. So I think there's a lot more public awareness on the value of trails, especially with the pandemic.
Mm-hmm.
Gosh, everybody got out on trails. They got outside, which is a great thing. But we've got to build the trail facilities in order to meet this these new users.
Mm-hmm. Right.
So we'll be doing it in a variety of ways, asking for donations, writing grants, sponsorships, events. We're looking at everything.
Right. Yeah. I mean, it takes everything, every little bit that you can get. And it sounds like, this is a great time because like you said, there's these high school mountain bike leagues. There's, new people coming out to the trails, because of the pandemic. And so, yeah, what an opportunity to really continue growing, mountain biking in the Southeast.
There's always a silver lining.
Right. Well, Terry, thanks so much for joining me and talking about SORBA. And thank you for all the work that you and your staff and all the volunteers do to make mountain biking fun in the Southeast.
Well, you're welcome. It was my pleasure.
Well, you can get more information about SORBA and even make donations at sorba.org. That's all we've got this week. We'll talk to you again next week.